Nagkaroon po tayo ng IATF meeting. Nagsimula kami nung umaga at naging extensive po yung discussions namin sa IATF para ma-prepare namin yung small group na pinatawag ni Pangulo doon sa Malacanang para i-report kung ano yung napag-usapan namin sa IATF. So yung bulk ng discussions po namin, nakasentro po kung ano yung gagawin natin after April 30 para yung ilan sa IATF na mga miyembro ay makapag-report kay Pangulong Duterte. Ganun pa man ay meron pa rin kaming na-resolve, no? Base sa aming resolution, IATF Resolution number 26, kung saan nakasaad ang sumusunod. All arriving overseas Filipino workers or OFWs, whether land-based or sea-based, shall be required to undergo a mandatory 14-day facility-based quarantine and shall be subject to rapid antibody testing for COVID-19 in accordance with Department Memorandum 2020-0180 issued by the Department of Health, provided that sea-based OFWs on board cruise ships who have been issued with a clean bill of health by the Bureau of Quarantine upon presentation of a certificate of completion of 14-day quarantine issued at the point of origin immediately before departure shall nevertheless be subjected to a rapid antibody testing and shall be managed in accordance with the aforementioned Department Memorandum. Lahat po ng OFW ay ire-require na dumaan sa mandatory 14-day facility-based quarantine at kailangan dumaan ng rapid antibody testing for COVID-19. Kaso, ang mga OFW na nasa cruise ship na binigyan ng clean bill of health ng Bureau of Quarantine, pagkapresenta ng Certificate of Completion of 14-day quarantine na in-issue ng bansa na huli nilang pinanggalingan, ay isa sa ilalim pa rin sa rapid antibody testing at ang pag-manage po sa kanila ay alinsunod sa Department Memorandum 2020-0180 ng Department of Health. At this point, we believe it is only appropriate to give credit where credit is due. The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, has facilitated the repatriation of 16,682 OFWs, of whom 13,213 are seafarers and 3,469 are land-based. Sa DFA na walang tigil na tumutulong sa ating mga kababayan sa ibayong dagat, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Aside from this development, starting tomorrow, the Eva Macapagal Super Terminal in Pier 15, which was converted into a COVID-19 treatment facility, will now be fully equipped with medical requirements for the treatment of COVID-19 patients and will be ready to accommodate persons who are showing mild symptoms. Isa lang po ito sa mga pasilidad na naihanda para sa mga kababayan natin na natamaan ng COVID-19. As of April 18, a total of 3,052 quarantine facilities for PUIs and mild COVID-19 cases with 211,474 beds have been established nationwide. This does not include the mega quarantine facilities or We Heal as One centers such as the ASEAN Convention Center, the NCC Athletes Village, the new Clark City NGAC, which together provide close to 2,000 additional beds. Bukod po sa quarantine facilities, tuloy po ang pagtutok ng gobyerno sa pag-expand ng ating testing capacity. As of today, we have a total of 17 testing laboratories nationwide, including the Philippine Red Cross facility, which we are inaugurating today. Aside from these, 40 more facilities are already in the pipeline for accreditation by the Department of Health. And we are confident that we will be able to quickly add to the 55,465 individuals we have tested to date. The DOH recognizes that our frontliners need the proper equipment to allow them to perform their tasks without getting sick. As of April 18, the DOH has facilitated the delivery of the following medical supplies to various health facilities nationwide: 10,018 units of alcohol, 79,050 coveralls, 615,010 masks, 9,000 face shields, 140,000 gloves, 74,775 goggles, 113,300 head caps, and 30 non-invasive ventilators. Para naman po sa atin na kailangan manatili sa sariling tahanan sa kalagitnaan ng ECQ, huwag po kayong mag-alala. Sinisiguro ng Department of Agriculture na sapat ang ating bigas at essential food items tulad ng manok at baboy. At present, the Department of Agriculture is undertaking efforts to ensure a sufficient supply of rice by the end of June, equivalent to around 18 million metric tons of rice, which is sufficient for 84 days. 1.95 million metric tons of chicken that is sufficient for 62 days. And 1.12 million metric tons of pork. Sa madaling salita, may pagkain po tayo at di po tayo maubusan ng supply sa ating mga merkado. Para naman po sa mga disadvantaged families, iniulat ng DSWD na namamahagi na po sila ng 445,580 family food packs sa ating mga LGUs at meron po silang stock na 384,426 family food packs sa DSWD warehouses sa buong bansa. The government continues to prioritize efforts to provide our people with the financial assistance needed to ensure that everyone can secure the basic necessities during the ECQ. Ayon sa DSWD, nakabigay na po sila ng emergency subsidies sa 4,597,854 low-income and 4-piece families, katumbas ng 25.54% ng 18 million target beneficiary families. But more than 90% na po ay naibigay, na download, na release sa iba't ibang mga LGUs. Kaya sa puntong ito, hinihintay po namin ang accomplishment report ng mga LGUs na nakatanggap na nung emergency subsidy program para ipamahagi sa kanilang mga constituents. So, reminder lamang sa LGUs na i-transmit na ang inyong mga accomplishment reports. Bukod po dito, nag-aabot din ang DA ng ayuda sa ating mga magsasaka. Batay po sa report nila, nabigyan na po ng financial subsidy for rice farmers ang 52,043 na magsasaka, habang ang Rice Farmers Financial Assistance ay napaabot na sa 438,207 na magsasaka. Nung isang araw, nabanggit po natin na magbibigay po ng ayuda ang gobyerno sa 3.4 milyong empleyado ng 1.5 milyong small businesses nationwide na apektado ng quarantine. Sa Small Business Wage Subsidy Program, may matatanggap na 5,000 hanggang 8,000 na peso bawat empleyado kada buwan na ibibigay sa loob ng 2 buwan. No? So, 5,000 to 8,000 pesos bawat empleyado. Pagkatapos po natin i-announce ito, the Department of Finance says that it has informed 124,606 small businesses that they are pre-qualified for the program. Inulit po namin ang anunsyo sa mga maliliit na negosyo na bukas na po ang application para dito at inaanyayahan po namin kayo na mag-apply para makuha ng inyong mga empleyado ang benepisyong ito. Lately, there have been reports that the government plans to strictly enforce the ECQ in order to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. These are measures that are being adopted in order to ensure that the irresponsible behavior of a few does not threaten the welfare of the majority that have followed the ECQ, and the stringent social distancing guidelines enforced by government. To date, the Philippine National Police reports that there have already been 130,177 ECQ violators. 30,366 of them were arrested, while the MMDA informs us that they have apprehended 2,740 drivers of private vehicles who have violated social distancing rules. Mga kababayan, these are not trivial violations. Napakalaki po ng epekto ng mga paglabag na ito. Every time an individual violates ECQ guidelines, he or she chooses to become a health threat to those who abide by it. Sa bawat pagkakataon ng paglabag sa ECQ, ang isang individual ay nagiging banta sa buhay ng mga kababayan nating sumusunod sa mga patakarang ito. Kahapon po, may 200 na bagong kaso ng COVID-19 for a total of 6,459 cases. May 19 na pumanaw dahil sa sakit na ito for a total of 428 deaths. May 41 naman na nakarecover sa COVID-19, bringing the total number of recoveries to 613. Kasama po sa pumanaw kahapon si former Senator Hiherson Sani Alvarez. We join his family in mourning the passing of a respected national figure who served our country in various capacities, both in the legislature and in the executive department. This pandemic has exacted a heavy toll on our country. Lives have been cut short. Loved ones have been taken from us. Never in our lifetimes have we faced a public health threat of this magnitude. Yet, neither have we, individually or collectively, been in such a position to directly influence the course of events. Sa madaling salita, meron pong pagkakataon na bawat isa po sa atin ay may magagawa para masugpo itong pandemic na ito. Kaya bahay muna, buhay muna. Lahat po tayo makakatulong sa laban na ito. Together and with God's grace and mercy, we will beat COVID-19, and together we heal as one. Maraming salamat po. Babasahin ko na rin yung mga katanungan mula sa mga kaibigan natin sa media. Dahil hindi ko po nabasa ang mga katanungan nila kahapon, gawa nung IATF meeting, babasahin ko na rin po yung mga questions nila yesterday. From Daniel Manalastas, PTV, House Appropriation Chair Eric Yap is suggesting na ibalik daw ang POGOs for tax purposes in a work-from-home setup. Then yung funds daw na makukuha pwedeng magamit for COVID-19 response. Ano pong tingin ng IATF dito? Hindi namin pag-usapan ang POGO directly, no? Kahapon. Pero baka naman sa IATF meeting namin tomorrow, baka isa yan sa mga pag-uusapan namin. From Maricel Halili, TV5, my audio of a woman circulating in group chats. This woman is asking people once again to buy their groceries because the president will declare a total lockdown either Monday or Tuesday. Please clarify. Hindi po totoo yan. At dinadaan na po sa forensics yung audio clip na yan. From Joseph Morong, GMA7, how can we contain the virus? Meaning, prevent the spread of COVID in a modified lockdown situation. Pag na-announce na po namin kung ano yung setup, then we will explain further kung ano yung magiging mga hakbang, mga do's and don'ts at mga bagong guidelines under the new rules after April 30. Can you address some of the voice clips going around about a total lockdown? Gaya ng sinabi ko, hindi po totoo yan at dinadaan na po sa forensics yung voice clip na yan. Can we get a definitive statement on 1. Will the President declare martial law? No. Nasabi na rin ng AFP yan, spokesperson ng AFP, PNP, pati si Secretary Lorenzana already spoke about that. 2. Is a total lockdown in the radar screen of the IATF? No, hindi namin pinag-usapan yung wala kasi sa vocabulary namin yung total lockdown, 'di ba? So even ang discipline naman namin sa IATF is quarantine, no? Community quarantine, modified or enhanced or general community quarantine. So we never use yung lockdown. Will the IATF agree to lift the liquor ban as asked by liquor makers in the country? Hindi namin, sa totoo lang, hindi namin napag-usapan yan kahapon. But again, may meeting kami tomorrow to further discuss yung anong mangyari after April 30. So, maaring mapag-usapan namin yan or hindi. So, tingnan natin. From Chris Jose of Remate Online, kinumpirma na po ni Yorme Isko na magpapatupad ng lockdown sa Sampaloc area. Ito po kasi ang lugar na may mataas na kaso ng COVID. Wala pa pong specific date dahil masusi pa raw itong pinag-aaralan ng mga otoridad sa IATF po na pag-usapan niyo po ba ang ganitong hakbang na pagpapatupad ng total lockdown sa distritong may mataas na kaso ng COVID. Kailangan po bang makipag-coordinate ng LGUs na magpapatupad ng lockdown sa area ng kanilang nasasakupan gaya po ng pamunuan ng lungsod na Maynila sa IATF bago po ipatupad ito? Ano po ba ang mga basihan or reasons bago po makapag-implement ng total lockdown sa isang lugar? Okay, so instead of talking about lockdown, no, sa gaya ng sinabi ko, ang disiplina naman namin sa IATF is we talk about quarantine. So sa pag-enforce sa mga quarantine, isa sa mga pinag-uusapan namin sa IATF is gagawa kami ng mga panibagong guidelines, no? Subject of course to the approval ni Pangulong Duterte. At kasama sa mga guidelines na yan, kung ano yung magiging triggers para sa iba't ibang mga LGUs para iakyat yung quarantine level nila. No? So, something to that effect. Kaya, pagdating po dun sa kung barangay per barangay, isa rin yun sa mga maaari namin bigyan ng mga parameters or yung mga tinatawag nga na triggers para i-enhance yung community quarantine posible dun sa mga localities na yan down to the barangay level. No? So that's also one option na tinitingnan natin. Ngayon na dahil wala pa po yan, naintindihan naman po namin na yung kalagayan ng City of Maynila, no, under kay Mayor Isko. So tama po yun. Dapat number one, makipag-coordinate siya sa DILG para maayos yung pag-implement nung anuman mga measures na gustong implement ng City of Manila. Number two, that already goes down to the implementation. No? So pagdating sa implementation ng mga directives or policies ng IATF, yung chief implementer po yung dapat makipag-ugnayan din po sila. So kay Secretary Galvez. Yun. So Secretary Anyos and Secretary Galvez. But I know both of them are already aware of the predicament of Mayor Isko, and I believe na nagko-coordinate na yun sila with Mayor Isko. From Jen Kabiling, how will the government enforce quarantine rules in subdivisions and residential buildings amid reports some residents violated the rules and gathered in common places like pools and clubhouses? So yun, yung implementation is up to the LGUs, no? Nasa responsibility ng mga LGUs to enforce whatever directives na binibigay ng IATF or na mga patakaran ng mga LGUs based din dun sa guidelines ng IATF. Do the policemen have authority to go inside these subdivisions and residential buildings to implement quarantine protocols? Again, we will leave that to the implementation of the chief implementer together with the DILG kasi sa kanya yung jurisdiction ng mga kapulisan together with the LGU dahil sila po yung nagko-coordinate as far as enforcement of laws are concerned at kasama rin po yung enforcement ng mga ordinances and executive orders ng LGUs. Number two, will the government heed the appeal of alcohol beverage makers to lift total liquor ban? Again, hindi namin napag-usapan kahapon, maaaring mapag-usapan namin tomorrow sa IATF meeting. From Trisha Terada, CNN Philippines, what is IATF's assessment of government response more than a week before quarantine period ends? Actually, kung nakikita nyo, no, at marami na rin siguro even sa private sector ang nagsasabi na we've been able to slow down the infection rate ng COVID-19. So, kung titingnan mo, yung rate of doubling natin is, well, in some studies, comparing the Philippines to other countries, we are between 5 to 10 days. We double, ang cases ng COVID-19 double every 5 to 10 days na. No? Because some countries ay nagdo-double every 3 days. Yung iba, nagdo-double between 2 days to 3 days. No? Tayo, ang Pilipinas, nandun na tayo sa segment na nagdo-double yung cases natin doon every 5 to 10 days. Yung sinasabi naman na R0 natin is presently, I think our R0 is 3. Meaning to say, one patient infects 3, no? If I'm not mistaken here. Wait, let me check, no? So yung R0 score natin is 3 right now. So, in terms of yung pag-slow down ng mga infection rate ng COVID-19, na ma-manage na po natin. So, yun yung isa sa mga basis na tinitingnan natin in which gives us more confidence dun sa pagde-decide natin on what to do after April 30. So what do we expect in the next 10 days? Well, the next 10 days, as far as IATF is concerned, tuloy-tuloy pa po yung aming mga meetings because kahapon po, sa pagkakaalam ko, nung nag-present po yung members ng IATF to the President, hindi pa po nakapag-decide si Pangulong Duterte kung anong gagawin after April 30 at binalik niya muna sa IATF ang pagpapatuloy ng aming discussions doon para mas mabibigyan namin si Pangulong Duterte ng more options that he can take a look at. So, that's one. Number two, magkakaroon tayo ng mas malawak na mga testing, especially sa NCR. In fact, today, Tuesday, magkaroon ng inauguration dun sa Philippine Red Cross, no? Para to show to the public that we are increasing our testing capacities. So yun, and then habang ine-expand natin yung testing capacities po natin, mas makikita natin within the next 10 days yung how many more yung infection rate natin, mas makikita rin natin yung ating recoveries. We hope to be able to increase pa our recoveries and decrease yung mga deaths natin. So, lahat yan will play a big factor as we continue to monitor, no? Para matulungan din tayo sa paggawa ng desisyon na pwede naman namin ipakita kay Pangulong Duterte for him to choose yung options niya. Nawala ako. Sorry. How is mass testing going? Like I said, i-expand pa natin yung ating testing. Remember, may mga cartridges na po tayo. Apart from the PCR lab-based test natin na in-expand natin, like I said, we already have 17 laboratories, 40 more in the pipeline. Number 2, dumating na po yung sa Gene Expert na cartridges natin, which is a lab-based test, pero ang turnaround time is 45 minutes. So, mas mabilis yun. And we have some laboratories already that are equipped to be able to conduct the Gene Expert. Number 3, yung UP-NIH Manila Health Tech na local testing kits natin, na PCR lab-based, is also already ongoing. Tapos na yung, nabigyan na yata sila ng FDA, tapos na yung, or kinoconduct na yung field implementation, no? And then they're ready to roll out 94,000 more tests. And then number 4, yung bagong guidelines natin dun sa rapid antibody testing. So with that, with those 4 measures in place already, mas ma-expect natin na mas maging expanded na yung testing natin using 4 different tests, no? Okay. From Henry Uri, maari po bang hatiin ng mayor o barangay chairman sa dalawang pamilya ang halagang matatanggap under SAP? No, kasi pag inaudit yan at dinalidate ng DSWD at inaudit ng COA, magkakaproblema po kayo, lalo na yung mga LGUs. From Arian Meres, ABS-CBN News Online, what did the IATF recommend to President Duterte for the post-April 30 scenario? How did he respond? Gaya ng sinabi ko, una-una, hindi pa namin totally pwedeng i-reveal ang lahat, no? Kasi it's still undergoing study, kumbaga. So, siguro, ang pwede ko na lang sabihin sa ating mga kababayan, syempre, ang sabi ko nga, ang binigay kay Pangulong Duterte are several options. Okay. Yung several options na yon, syempre, titingnan natin in terms of, sabihin natin, pag-modify. Okay. If we modify it, you have to look at several factors. No? Modifying in terms of geography, location. So, some areas, provinces, doing much better than others. In terms of, dito sa mga probinsya na yan, wala namang cases ng COVID-19. Sa mga set ng provinces na to, meron pero very manageable, kukonti lang. Sa set ng provinces na to at mga lugar na to, medyo ito dapat bantayan natin. Kasi hindi pa natin, masyado pang marami at may threat pa ng COVID-19. So, that's one. Number two, yung in terms of age, di ba? Ito yung mga most vulnerable sectors of society, age and health. No? Ito, hindi sila vulnerable in terms of age, pero meron silang mga comorbidities, meron silang mga sakit, meron silang mga health conditions. Diba? So, that's also another option na titingnan mo. Then, the next option is yung sa industries. Ito mga industries na to, pwede natin ma-manage yung social distancing, hand washing, etc. etc. Itong mga industries na to, mahirap magkaroon ng social distancing dito because by the nature itself of the industry or the business, hindi talaga pwede. Kahit anong gawin natin, hindi natin ma-manage. Okay. And then, the next one is, okay, sa mga industries na kaya nating i-manage, what sort of workforce is manageable for us? Diba? So, 30% ng workforce, 50% ng workforce, yung iba is work from home ang arrangements, o yung nature ng negosyo or ng industry, pwede bang lahat work for home? So, may ganyan ding option na tinitingnan. Diba? And, so ito yung mga iba't ibang mga options na pinag-usapan ng masinsinan ng aming IATF. So, bawat miyembro ng IATF may kinontribute sa discussion, may mga inputs sa discussion, etc. etc. At the end of the day, since nandito yung mga sets of options natin, yung small group mula sa IATF ay pumunta kay Pangulong Duterte para ilatag yung mga options na yan. So, ang nangyari kagabi is, at kami rin sa IATF, ang nangyari kahapon is, sige, ito yung basta ang number 1 na napag-agreehan ng IATF. O sige, we are in agreement that this is the framework that we use. So, okay na kami dyan. We are in agreement that these are the options that we are looking at. Okay, agree na kami dyan. Okay, we are in agreement that we'll present the options to the President. Yes. And we are in agreement that this still needs further discussion and refinement. Yes. So, pagdating kay Pangulong Duterte, pag-present ng ganyan, itong mga options, pero kailangan pa siguro natin i-refine ito at pag-usapan na masinsinan, sinabi ni Pangulo, okay, balik nyo muna sa IATF, usap kayo ulit, and then come back to me again kung ano yung napag-desisyonan ninyo or napag-agrihan ninyo at yung mga output ninyo. So, yun ang naging discussion. Kaya today, ang mangyari sa amin today is bawat isa sa amin na mga miyembro ng IATF will continue to look at all of these options and study all of these options para pagbalik namin tomorrow, and some of us will engage some of our stakeholders, para pagbalik namin tomorrow, we will come back with ano yung aming panibagong inputs based on sa options na yun. So basically, yun ang mangyayari sa atin tomorrow. Okay. From Francis Wakefield, Daily Tribune. Sabi ni Secretary Roque, wala pa raw desisyon kung extended na ang ECQ after the meeting by the IATF last Monday. Ano yung naging contentious points doon sa naging meeting kahapon? Yung isa ko pa palang nakalimutan, yung sa transportation din pala. So, sa transportation, isa rin yan sa mga napag-usapan namin. What sort of transportation na pwede tayong mag-regulate and ensure social distancing? Ano yung mga types of transportation na mahirapan tayo? So, isa rin yun sa mga options na tinitingnan natin. Madugo nga ba talaga? Define madugo. Naging extensive discussion. Kasi lahat kami, siyempre lahat ng mga secretaries representing their respective jurisdictions, their respective mandates. So, siyempre, pagdating sa discussion, meron kang inputs based dun sa discussion mo with your stakeholders and based on your own mandate and jurisdiction. Kaya, hindi naman madugo, but it was a very extensive discussion at lahat ng mga inputs na maaring ibigay ng bawat isa ay nabigay naman pero bitin. Bitin pa rin, no? Kaya, we have to do another round of discussions kasi I feel marami rin ang hindi pa natin na put into the equation. Kumusta yung naging meeting with PRRD with the former health secretaries and experts? Actually, wala po ako doon, but you can probably ask the question to Secretary Roque. Is the President already leaning to the extension of the ECQ or modified na nga or need more time pa to decide? Need more time, basically. So, binalik sa IATF for more extensive discussions. Then, we'll come back to him with ano yung output ng aming continued discussions. From Rose Navenario Hataw. Good AM. Bakit po ang Land Bank walang pinatutupad na moratorium on loan payment samantalang government-owned bank ito? Maraming salamat po. Marami pong binigay na or pinatupad na moratorium ang Land Bank, no? In fact, basahin ko lang, no? And ang Land Bank of the Philippines payment moratorium so far has actually benefited 9,161 credit card holders with waived penalties and 3,362 cardholders with deferred annual membership fees. The payment moratorium of Land Bank has also benefited 210,988 salary loan borrowers with amortization due, meaning principal and interest. It has also benefited 712 loan accounts nationwide with principal and interest due and 25,444 agrarian reform beneficiaries or ARBs covering 43,100 hectares of agricultural land on amortizations due. And the Land Bank of the Philippines also extended a 30-day grace period to all its borrowers under the Speed PUV program. So these are the accomplishments po ng Land Bank in terms of yung kanilang tulong tungkol dito dun sa moratorium na sinasabi. From Belia Cariaso of Bandera. The WHO said worst is still ahead as it warned countries on easing restrictions. UP also came up with statistics on the possible spike of COVID cases once lockdown is lifted after April 30. There is also a projection that Asia might become the epicenter of the pandemic. Given warnings from experts, will the government still proceed with the lifting of ECQ or further extend the lockdown? Kaya naman po, mga kababayan, ma-appreciate po natin kung gaano kahirap yung magiging desisyon po ng ating Pangulo. Kaya yung IATF po ay ginagawa ang lahat para po mapag-usapan ng masinsinan ang lahat ng mga aspeto ng anong gagawin after April 30 at ano yung possible best scenario, decision at setup na gagawin natin after April 30. That being said, I'd like to assure the public also that we are also mindful of the guidelines being issued by the World Health Organization, no? Kaya nga po, lahat ng mga decisions ng IATF ay nire-refer pa rin namin lahat ng yan doon sa mga guidelines ng WHO. Now, so, ano yung mga WHO guidelines as far as yung sinasabi nga nila na hindi pwede bigla-bigla ang pag-lift ng lockdown or quarantine or community quarantine, no? So, we are mindful of the following guidelines. Number 1, sabi ng WHO, kailangan you have to make sure that the COVID-19 transmission is controlled in those areas, no? Before you even consider yung lifting, no? So, COVID-19, number 1, COVID-19 transmission is controlled. Kaya kami, kasama sa parameters natin, tinitingnan natin yung epidemiological curve, rate of acceleration, rate of deceleration, etc., etc. Number 2, public health capacities and systems in place to identify, isolate, test, trace, and quarantine, sabi ng WHO. Kaya nga po, tayo sa Pilipinas at yung IATF, mindful of this, ang ating objective ngayon is test para ma-identify, isolate. Kaya nga po, binasa ko, we already have 200,000 plus beds ready nationwide, no, to be used for isolation, no? So, identify, isolate, test, trace. So, yung contact tracing na ginagawa po natin, as soon as nagkakaroon po tayo ng identification ng COVID-19, agad yung PUIs at PUMs natin, na-identify natin, tinetrace natin, tapos tinetest din natin sila, then we isolate agad. So, kasama rin yan sa ating mga protocols. And we have the staysafe.ph app that helps us also dun sa contact tracing. Diba? And quarantine. Okay. Number 3, minimize outbreaks in high vulnerability. Kaya, isa sa pinag-uusapan namin sa IATF, ano ba yung provinces na mataas pa ang bilang ng COVID-19? Ano yung medium? Ano yung zero? So, tinitingnan namin lahat yan. Then, yung vulnerabilities in terms of age. Sino yung most vulnerable sector? Sino yung hindi? Doon sa hindi vulnerable na age sector, sino naman yung may comorbidities? Sino naman may health issues? So, kasama yan sa mga pinag-aaralan ng IATF. And then, in workplaces that we will allow to operate, kailangan ng physical distancing, hand washing, etc. Kaya sabi ko sa inyo, isa sa tinitingnan ng IATF, ano bang industries ang pwede magkaroon ng physical distancing measures? Diba? At doon sa mga workplaces na yon, napapayagan natin, ano naman po ang percentage of workforce na i-allow natin just to ensure na may physical distancing. Diba? Then, number 5, minimize importation. So, ito rin, pinag-uusapan natin. Importation, and when we talk about importation, paano yung importation in the context of from other countries, yung inbound. Kaya, IATF, laging binabasa namin, di ba? Yung ano yung mga protocols. Ang latest protocol natin, lahat mag-rapid test kit. Lahat i-undergo sa rapid test. Lahat ng mga OFWs, lahat ng overseas Filipinos. Ira-rapid test na po natin. So, that's one aspect, imported from out of the country. What about in the country? Meaning to say, province to province. Anong protocols yung ilalagay natin, especially to ensure na yung mga walang COVID ay mananatiling walang COVID. Yung mga medium na lang, meaning say may COVID pero manageable, na hindi aakyat. No? And then of course, yung controlling doon naman na mataas ang bilang ng COVID-19. Na to make sure na galing doon, hindi pupunta sa mga areas na na-control na at doon sa areas na wala pa. At kung may ganyan bang klase, ano ba ang guidelines and protocols natin for that? And then lastly, sabi ng WHO, ensure that communities are engaged. Kaya nga po, meron tayong inatasan na technical working group sa IATF, the Technical Working Group on Anticipatory and Forward Planning. And they are set to present to us, the IATF, tomorrow, yung kanilang various surveys. No? Consumer survey, their business survey, their agriculture and fishery survey, and their survey on the definition of the new normal. So, based on their surveys, syempre, tinanong nila ano ang inputs ng iba't ibang mga sectors, the consumer sector, the business sector, the agriculture and fishery sector, and a general survey on what our people feel should be the new normal. At that's part of the community engagement that we have. Then each and every department secretary also are engaging their own stakeholders. And ang utos rin sa amin today is to continue that engagement to get more inputs from our different stakeholders para pagdating ng IATF meeting tomorrow, what we will be bringing into the table tomorrow would be the inputs from various stakeholders all across the country. Okay. From Joseph Morong, GMA 7. What was the recommendation of the small group tasked by President to study post-April 30 scenarios? Nabagit ko na po. Of the 5 factors that you mentioned that would be considered in the post-April 30 scenario, what were the main concerns, issues that dictated the recommendation? So, to put context sa katanungan ni Joseph Morong, naalala nyo meron tayong 5 parameters, di ba? Yung epidemiological curve, yung health capacity natin, social, economic, and security factors. So, yung security factor, pag-usapan din namin yan tomorrow kasi hindi masyado namin na-discuss yan kahapon. So, tomorrow, they will make the presentation. But all these other 4 factors, syempre, napag-usapan lahat yan. And all those 5 parameters, we also compare that with the WHO guidelines. So, sama-sama lahat yan. Ang question was, ano yung concerns and issues? Well, yung sa epidemiological curve, syempre, gaya ng sinabi ko, it appears that we're able to control it naman. No? The rate of increase is not that high anymore. We're doing more testing, so we're getting more a better, clearer picture of where we are now. And I'd also like to announce that, remember before I was saying na ang lumalabas sa mga tests natin is that out of all of the tests that we're conducting, about 17 to 18% yung nagpa-positive. And then remember I told you nung nag-expand tayo ng testing, from 16 to 17% na being tested, from all of those being tested, naging 16 to 17 17 to 18 ang positive. I mentioned na when we expanded, naging 15 na lang. 15% na lang ang tinetest natin, ang lumalabas ng positive. Pero sabi ko, well, it's too early to tell kasi ano pa naman that's just one slide. But remember, we've been increasing our testing capacity. And it appears that as we expanded our testing, it has now gone down to 13%. So that's also an indicator somehow na the more we expand our testing, from 18 naging 17, from 17 naging 15, then from 15 naging 13% lang ang positive sa COVID-19. So also gives you somehow a picture that we're able to control. So, based on that parameter, syempre, ang takot natin is if we lift it or open or modify, those numbers could go up. Diba? There's that risk. So you have to look at the risk. So there were models that were created. And the model is, mas magiging kampante tayo to modify if our testing gets even more expanded. Meaning to say, we can go on a modified quarantine. We will be more confident of going to a modified quarantine if our testing capacity is expanded even more. So the more we expand our testing capacity, the more we have confidence in modifying the quarantine. Next is yung sa health capacities natin. So, binilang natin how many beds, how many ICU beds we have, how many ventilators we have, how many hospitals we have all over the country, and how many health workers we have. To give us a sense na this is the maximum health capacity natin right now. And we have to put in the model, ensure that when we create the model, yung peak natin will not hit our maximum health capacity. In fact, kailangan may may buffer ka pa. So, that was the discussion dun sa second parameter. Then, of course, yung economic parameter, yung sinabi ko na, no? Yung what industries will open, transportation, how much percentage of the employment. And then, yung sa social factors naman is, okay, ano ang magiging social health or response natin to those, number one, yung industries that we will allow to operate, yung employees nila doon. Siyempre, makakatrabaho na sila, so meron na silang kikitain. What do we do now with those na hindi pa pwede mag-operate? What do we do now with those na hindi pa pwede magtrabaho? So, discussion din natin yun. So, yun, no? Ganun ka extensive ang mga discussions namin dito sa IATF. What do you think are the repercussions, implications of the recommendation? So, I guess I already talked about that. From Trisha Terada, CNN, Philippines. 40 health workers from RITM have been infected. Has the task force found out how this happened? We're waiting for word on from the RITM and the DOH, no, to advise us. If not today, maybe tomorrow, no, we'll get a clear picture. So, how does the IATF and DOH plan to resolve possible backlogs? Well, that's why I said yung 17 subnational laboratories, very important that they will begin, that they've already begun their testing. So even if the RITM has limited already their testing because of the 40 health workers ng RITM that was infected by COVID-19, and that just goes to show how dangerous, no? Kaya hindi pwede basta-basta na lang tayo mag-accredit ng laboratory. Because again, the exposure to the COVID-19 virus is just, it's too great. So, the backlog will be resolved through the 17 subnational laboratories that are operating right now. Ngayon, yung sa RITM, of course, we're taking care of the health of these health workers and nursing them to full health, no? But just like to assure the public that yung pag-limit ng operation or pag-downscale ng operation ng RITM is temporary. So we need to find health workers who are healthy, obviously not infected, who can come in to the RITM so that we can ensure that the RITM goes back to normal operations while we take care of the health workers ng RITM who were infected by COVID-19. From Belia Carriazo of Bandera, clarification sa IATF ID issued by IPC. Kailan na lang siya pwede gamitin at required na ba lahat na may exemption na kumuha ng rapid pass? Anong dahilan bakit nag-decide na wag nating gamitin ang IATF IDs? This is now sa realm ng implementation. So I will have to refer you to our National Task Force COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Galvez. From Ace Romero, Philstar. What prevented the President from coming up with a decision? What were the contentious points during yesterday's meeting? Well, it's not an easy decision to come up with, basically. And we, number one. Number two, we still have time. So we still have time for the President to give his decision, no? In fact, we're looking at the entire week, this week, to give the President some leeway and time to make up decision. Kasi April 30 is next week pa naman eh. So, kaya nga, inumpisahan namin ang meeting namin ng Monday ng IATF to talk about this nga because we anticipated that it's not an easy decision to make. Really. It's not. Kahit kami sa IATF, we're trying to put in as much meat and details into the several options that the President has. Because ultimately, syempre, i-guide namin siya na itong options na to, ito ang magiging effect niyan. Itong option na to, ito magiging effect niyan. So, yun lang yung gusto makita ni Pangulo. Na kailangan pa namin pag-usapan para mas malagyan pa namin ng karagdagang detalye. Para pag pakita namin sa kanya na ito yung, ganito yung decision points mo, Mr. President, at ito yung magiging repercussions niyan. Ito yung magiging effect niyan. Yun. So we just need to put more meat into the possible decision points of the President. So that's the last of the questions. Kaya sa mga may-ari o gumawa ng mga material na ginamit namin para sa slides kanina. At sa mga nakalipas na pressers, maraming salamat po sa inyong tulong sa pagpapaintindi sa ating mga kababayan tungkol sa pinapahayag natin dito. Sa ating mga kababayan, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikipagtulungan sa inyong pamahalaan. Gaya ng sabi namin na pabalik-balik, kayo po yung first line of defense, kaya bahay muna, buhay muna. Huwag po kayong maniwala at magpakalat ng mga impormasyon kung ito ay hindi beripikado at hindi nagmula sa mga ahensya ng gobyerno. May katumbas pong parusa ang mga gumagawa nito. Sa ating mga kasama sa pagpapalaganap ng tama at napapanahong impormasyon sa iba't ibang media outlets sa TV, radyo, dyaryo at online na naka-hook up po sa amin ngayon. Maraming salamat po. Salamat din sa Google Philippines, Facebook Philippines at YouTube. Thank you din po. So, salamat din sa CNN for continuing our TV broadcast. So mga kababayan, siguro sana maunawaan po natin na hindi po madali ang desisyon na ito, lalong-lalo na po para kay Pangulong Duterte. Kami sa IATF, maging kami, ay syempre kailangan pa namin ng panahon pa para pag-usapan pa po ang lahat ng mga options na available po para sa atin at para makipag-ugnayan po kami at malaman din po ang mga inputs mula sa iba't iba nating mga stakeholders at iba't ibang mga communities po natin. So, konting panahon na lamang po ang hinihingi namin sa inyo para talagang masinsinan na mapag-usapan namin ito sa IATF para mas guided po si Pangulong Duterte pag ibinigay na po namin sa kanya ang ibang options na pwede niyang pagpilian. Ano man ang maging desisyon ng ating Pangulo, sana po suportahan natin lahat. At itong mga desisyon na ito, hindi man madali, pag na-desisyonan na rin naman po, ay meron din po naman tayong mekanismo na kung makita natin na kailangan mag-adjust po tayo pagdating ng panahon, tulad ng kung sa ibang areas ay sisipa yung numero, tataas yung numero, ay dapat mabilis din po yung action natin dun sa mga areas na yan. Ang importante po ay unang-una na habang ginagawa po natin ang lahat na makasurvive dito sa pandemic na ito, ay kailangan gawin na rin po natin ang nararapat para makasurvive din po ang ekonomiya ng ating bansa. At ang ating mga kababayan na pwedeng magtrabaho ay mabigyan ng pagkakataon na magtrabaho, kumita at magpakain ng kanilang pamilya. So ito po yung delicate balance na kailangan natin pag-aralan pa ng mas malalim at mas masusing pag-aaral at pag-uusap. Kaya konting panahon na lamang po ang hiningi namin sa inyo. Kaya in the meantime, mga kababayan, let's follow all the rules and regulations ng ating gobyerno dahil ginagawa namin ang lahat ng ito para sa proteksyon ninyo at sa kaligtasan ng inyong mga mahal sa buhay. Maraming salamat po. Amping kanunay, padayon ta sa atong pag-ampo. Maayong buntag, daghang salamat sa tanan.